Hi, I'm Matt Stone. You're listening to Crucial Conversations, a series of 5 stories of grassroots leadership by people in the disability sector in Queensland. Since the early 1980s, Margaret and Jeremy Ward have been active members of the disability community in Queensland. They have invested in collective family advocacy efforts and in developing their own leadership skills and the skills of others. They were also instrumental in the creation of organisations such as CREW, QAI and Pave the Way. On occasion, they also took up paid roles in the sector. In this story, the second of our series, we hear the very personal story of how they fought for their daughter Mena's right to an education amongst her peers at the local school. They describe the importance of clarifying their vision, learning about new ways of doing things, and getting the right people around the table to help make it happen. This is the story of how 2 parents balanced their focused efforts for big-picture systems change while ensuring that on the home front, their daughter could achieve the life she wanted. Margaret, Jeremy and Mena have generously shared their learnings with other people with disabilities and families across Queensland, nationally and internationally. Mena sadly passed away a few months before her 30th birthday in 2009.
That's Mena. Can everybody see that? Not that there's much I can do about it if you can't. This is Mena's house. That's where she lives. That's her sister Rebecca. Mena's 11 going on 12. Rebecca's 9. Her brother Jonathan. Her grandparents, who incidentally are present today. The family cat. Family dog.
Mena's favourite song was Mamma Mia and Dancing Queen, and which one did we have at the funeral? Was it Dancing Queen? Can't remember. Anyway, those songs are the songs that always bring her back to me. Hi, I'm Margaret. I'm the result of an extraordinary journey that my children have taken me on.
I'm Jeremy and I'm a father of 3 children, Mena, Rebecca, Jonathan, and married to Margaret, who's been my almost lifelong partner and lover, and in Jonathan's words, Mena defined our life, and in many ways she defined mine since she came into my life.
Mena was diagnosed with cerebral palsy and intellectual disability. She was diagnosed by a visiting paediatrician. I was alone and I saw hope fly out the window.
You know, when I think back, I wonder why on earth wasn't I there at that time? I think because I was in a new job and I'd had to go and do some work up the coast for legal aid.
As I left the room with this baby in my arms, a young physio was standing outside and she took me by the hand and she said, "This baby that you walked in with is the same baby you walked out with. Now let's go and have a cup of tea." I realised the importance of really good professionals that could be your allies. For me, my response was, "Why us?" For Jeremy, your response was, "Why not us?"
My sister with cerebral palsy would do everything else the family did. She would be part of the family. We went to the beach together, we had holidays together, we went out, and I sort of learnt how to bundle her wheelchair into the back of an old Holden, you know, almost as soon as I could walk. And I guess I tried to impress upon you that life does go on, and I didn't look back on my childhood as a brother of an older sister with disability as some sort of tragic event. Certainly not. It was just life, and that's what you did.
I came from a very comfortable upbringing and where nothing went wrong.
We were both blessed with really stable, loving families.
I could not believe that adversity would happen to me.
You know, my other sister, you know, there were times when I thought she just didn't get what we were trying to do or didn't understand. But she kept on coming back and, you know, and similarly your father, who really, really struggled. But, gee, he was there right to the end.
My father was a doctor and he believed very strongly in the medical model. And we saw him go through an epiphany as well.
Mena was very low muscle tone as a child, as a baby and as a child, and she was never able to walk. She needed assistance with all her personal care.
Mena was sick very often, and we would have to put out the word that things were grim.
So everything from toileting to showering to dressing to having a meal, she could sit at a table as long as she was well supported in whatever way, whether it was in a wheelchair or something else, and to a certain extent feed herself with a spoon.
I'm reflecting, Jeremy, about the fact that our families were solid middle-class families, that we had the best education and that we never really went without.
If Mena were here now, she'd be wanting to ask some questions of you, to know if you had a girlfriend. She might even ask if you had a boyfriend. Do you have any children? And what's your middle name?
And then if she really liked you, she would come round and hold your hand.
Invite you to dinner.
In 1989, I was able to go to Canada and the United States to see how families organised themselves on a Churchill Fellowship. I had no idea about Churchill Fellowships, but I was doing a lot of talking at the time amongst folk who were interested in what I was saying around what we wanted for Mena. And a couple of young professionals came to meet with me and said, we think you need to go and learn more, and the best place is in the States and in Canada at that time, and that we're going to help you apply for a Churchill Fellowship. They sat down with me and then I won it. So off I went. I had been sitting on the fence, I had realised, for quite a long time, reading all the material about inclusion, but always worried that this was all talk and that it actually didn't happen. For me, I needed the visual experience of seeing this young girl in her wheelchair, zooming around the classroom, just doing ordinary schoolwork and being part of the group. And I then realised that it was time to move.
And Marg had come back from Canada and she'd said to me, I've seen a little girl like Mena in a regular, ordinary school classroom in a wheelchair, appeared to have the same issues that Mena has, and she's being supported in that class and it works.
It's a moment when you know you can't turn back.
I just couldn't see how on earth we could possibly pull that off here. But you came back with two ideas. One was it's possible for Mena to be in a regular classroom. The other one was the strategy, was the support circle.
I came back from that trip and I said, we're going to do it.
Neither of us could have done it alone, and many times we couldn't have done it just the two of us. And we got on board the people to support us, and these people had the most extraordinary ideas and strategies that you and I would never have even thought of.
I remember Quentin Bryce saying to me once, never underestimate the power of a middle-class woman to affect change. And for me, that was an epiphany, really, that I need not be ashamed of this, that in fact this was a blessing in order to do what we had to do.
I was just slower than you were, Margaret, to take on, this new world of full inclusion at all costs.
One of the key lessons was that families developed great strength out of an intentional strategy called circles of support. And this is where a family or an individual with disability called a group together of like-minded people who could assist them in thinking through the issues that they had and to help them plan for the future. Our first circle was very focused on getting Mena into a regular school, but we had some sense of a circle involved in our lives for 20 years. This mechanism gave great strength to our work and to us as a family. It was really, I guess, to summarise it, 4, 5, 6 minds are better than 2.
We were fortunate to know people with skills and experience that we may not have known had we grown up in with different backgrounds. So when we first were able to gather together that group of people in our first circle, which we asked to come together to help us get Mena into regular school, we were able to ask a couple who were both organisational psychologists that worked with large organisations and small around affecting change. We were able to ask, someone who was very young but very experienced even at a young age in supporting people like Mena. They were the resources that we had at our disposal. They were the people we knew, and they were the people that were prepared to help us.
That I had made this decision that I wasn't turning back.
The plan was to go to all the local state schools. Mena was in about grade 4 at that point. She was already attending one day at a school about 3 or 4 suburbs away because it was a new school and the environment was physically, acceptable to her. Accessible and acceptable. But we started off with our local school, which was the school where Margaret and her brothers had all attended years before. It was where our other daughter was already attending, and it was where our son would go. It was our local primary school in our suburb, and the principal sat there and said, there is absolutely no way that this child will attend this school.
This series is brought to you by CREW, the Community Resource Unit. CREW exists to create positive change so that people with disability will be welcomed, respected and appreciated in their communities. For more information, please visit our website at cru.org.au.
It was very tough. We had the school threatening to go on strike. We had been labelled as errant families. We had been belittled and reviled, really.
Oh, look, it was incredibly stressful from my perspective. We met, the circle we'd gathered together met every fortnight, every Sunday night for 8 months. We developed a plan.
There were a number of personal slights to us that I think if we were alone would have been overwhelming, but we had the support of this group and who kept us steady and kept us strong.
Well, I think no child with the complex combination of conditions that Mena had ever been in a regular school full time. I mean, in Queensland. I could be wrong there. We were known, and we just had to be really tough. A lot of the schools in that part of Brisbane were and remain old, high-set, undulating playgrounds in fairly hilly terrain. And so ultimately, We went back to the school where Mena was already going 1 day a week, and as soon as we said to that principal we want her to attend 5 days a week, he threw her out even for that 1 day a week. So, within about 2 or 3 months of this campaign, we were further back than we'd started, in the sense. We then embarked on that campaign, and we had a few things on our side. One was there was a very supportive regional director, and in the end he directed the principal. He said, "You will take this child. It is my decision, it is not yours as the school principal. You will take it." And then half the staff were up in arms, and the union got involved, and it was our circle, members of our circle, who came up with a strategy to help the regional director to move it forward, and that was to hold a gathering of all the key players. There were about 18 people when you added them all up, from P&C people, different teachers, education department people, a union representative, about 18, us, a couple of circle members supporting us, about 18 people, and we got everyone together for a day, and the question then was not whether Mena goes to the school. That had already been decided, even though the school didn't like it. It was how. And by the end of the day we had a broad agreement, and she started halfway through that year.
We saw heroism of one young mother who happened to be the president of the P&C at that time, and she came to visit us to see who we were and to talk to us. Such a respectful act. And then she chaired the meeting, one of these terrible P&C meetings, with such aplomb, I guess, manoeuvring this terrible group of people through to assist us. She went on her way, and I saw her 20 years later, and I thanked her so much. She couldn't see the value in what she'd done, but it was true, ordinary. It was the ordinary citizen being reasonable and thoughtful and respectful that we really valued at that time.
The thing that upset me most was that other families got up against us. I can understand teachers worried about not having enough support. I get that. But that other families would get up in front of us at public meetings, P&C meetings, and say, if this child, who they've never met, comes to this school, I will withdraw my child from the school. As if she had some highly contagious disease or was a little terrorist or something. I was going to say it's the downside of being part of a middle-class world. Some families take the education of their children so seriously. We're concerned about reputation, concerned about whether their child will get exactly the same amount of support as the next, that when they see a child like Mena coming into the environment, they think they're going to suck all the support away from all the other children, that they will then attack. I think if we were in a school in some underprivileged area, the other families probably would have far more day-to-day issues to worry about than whether this child was coming to the school.
About 2 weeks ago, I asked the children to answer 2 questions. The first question was, what does it mean to you to have Mena in your class? I don't mind having Mena in our class. She doesn't make much difference. She's okay in some ways, and in other ways she's a friend to the class, and she's also a part of the class. Having Mena in the class is good because you find out about cerebral palsy, SERABL PAUSE. It was a good effort. And she can be very funny. And the second question was, how would you feel, or how do you think Mena would feel if she had to go back to a special school? Mena would feel pretty sad because her good experience would go down the drain. I would feel sad because she's my friend and I don't really care because she's just exactly the same, just that she's got a problem. If Mena goes back, I will probably feel a bit sad And because all of us are used to her cheery welcome, and we are also used to helping her, I think Mena is happy here with all of us to help her when she needs us. If Mena had to leave our class, I would be disappointed, and I think she would too. I didn't seem to know her too well before I came to this class, but now I can't imagine it without her.
The lovely part of this story is that within 6 weeks of Mena being in the regular school, she started to read her first words, she made her first friend, and all the kerfuffle died down. It was a non-event. We then had to deal with high school, which is another story. Yes, I have the photo of her. She had her little uniform on, it was too big, and she was heading off down the path into the school with such determination.
1,300 students. It was a large traditional high school. It had a farm. It was traditionally run. You know, I remember battling with this huge bureaucracy that was so all-powerful. So it was a very, very difficult period for both of us.
And I was so proud of her. She was going to make the most of it.
The principal that came wanted her to go through this transition process of, you know, a couple of days and then maybe a few more and that sort of thing. And we objected to that. We just said, no, she's coming full-time and that's that.
And then she said to me, I don't trust you, you're a radical. That was a good start.
Yes. And she knew I was a lawyer, so she thought we were going to sue the school at every opportunity, I think. Now, there was a special unit there supporting children with physical disabilities, but the issue was more one of supporting young people to have their physical needs met and they could compete academically, whereas Mena was a completely different ballgame. And so, again, they had never dealt with a child like Mena or a young person like Mena. I remember being carpeted before the deputy principal myself because I'd walked into a classroom without getting permission from administration, even though the classroom teacher had given me an open invitation to go and see what was happening in the classroom when Mena was there. But someone in the administration had seen me do this and I was given a note, go to the deputy principal's office.
One of the driving things for Mena was that she wanted to be in the action. She wanted to be in the cut and thrust of life. And that's what this school was. It was the epitome of ordinariness and reality, and that's where she wanted to be. So I think she took a lot on the chin just so that she could be there.
Every so often, didn't happen often, but, you know, a teacher would come up to me and say, I just want to say, when you brought your daughter to the school, I thought you were crazy. Now I think it was the best decision you could have made. And that made it, made up for all the other stuff.
I guess the quantum shift that we would want is to see the value that the Menas of the world would bring to other students. And that does not mean to disrupt or to make life difficult, but with good support, with intelligent educational strategies, diversity is only good. It's not about segregating people out that are too hard.
At a school social, and other students turned off the mechanism on her motorised wheelchair so she couldn't move, in effect, could have locked her in a room, and she just sat there and took it. It was to Mena's advantage that her intellectual disability was such that she didn't understand a lot of that, and she wanted to be people's friends, but she did have a robust sense of, I can be here, she wouldn't have conceived of it as I'm entitled to be here, but this is school, this is my school. We ended up taking the school to the Anti-Discrimination Tribunal after Mena had left over the simplest of issues, namely physical access to final year school formal and graduation dinner, and also an excursion.
The education of students with special needs is again in public focus after an Anti-Discrimination Commission finding relating to a local high school. The Commission found the school had discriminated against a student by excluding her from an excursion for safety reasons. The Queensland Teachers Union is conscious of the growing moves by parents and educators towards an increase in the inclusion of students with disabilities into mainstream or regular classrooms. The union understands the philosophical and educational reasons for a more inclusive approach to education and is broadly supportive of such moves. Courier Mail, 2nd of March 2001.
It was a very difficult time, a very complex time. She didn't make any long-standing friends in the 6 years she was there. Only one other student in Year 12 came up and said goodbye to her when we left that final day. I have a clear memory of that final day, driving away and thinking, thank God it's over.
If I were to talk to my younger self, I would say follow your intuition. And secondly, that building a vision is glorious work. It's hard work, but it is so positive and life-affirming that the difficulties are counterbalanced. And I'm sure of that.
Once Mena left school, we didn't have to go along with what the service system had to offer.
We truly did not know what we were going to do. I felt like there was a train coming towards us. One of the circle people said, well, why don't you start your own business and employ her?
We found a little business for sale for only a few thousand dollars.
Now, this was a huge shock to me because I had no idea of the business world.
To make homemade paper, and we decided we could do that at home. You were quite interested because it satisfied your creative juices to a certain extent. You knew you could. You went off and did a small business course at TAFE, and we set up our house, which was quite large, to have a work area for Mena, and all that was put in place before Mena left school.
Again, it was a very good example of how the power of other people coming into your lives and helping you problem solve can get you to think beyond your little world. The end of that was that I gave up a job that I loved, and I went from being a bureaucrat to being a paper maker. It was a little bit crazy, but we weren't fighting anybody along the way. We were building, we were shaping, we were creating a good life for Mena.
So we got the business going, and then of course Mena then turned around about 6 years ahead of us. We had the idea she'd move into her own home when she was about 25, and when she was 18 she said, I'm moving out on my 19th birthday.
She was ready for anything. She was ready for every new adventure, and we saw her really grow through that time.
We set up this strategy initially to help support her in her own home, but also to help her develop networks of friends, and where we had different people coming to dinner most, if not all, nights of the week. Now, for some people, that would drive them crazy. Me, for example, I couldn't stand that. But for Mena, that was just terrific. She just loved it. And if there was a gap in the week, on her whiteboard, she'd say, who's coming to dinner? What's happening that night?
My vision for Mena had been overtaken by Mena's vision for herself.
People would share with us that they loved coming to Mena's house for dinner. This was something that would never have happened had she still been living with us.
She started to separate clearly from me. She would tell me to leave. On the face of it, I could have been hurt about that, but this was a huge achievement.
And you would take her off in the van to all these parts of Brisbane we didn't know existed, where you bought essential oils and lye for the soap making, and coming to work at our house. And being in that work role for 2 hours was very important because she began to learn what it meant to work. But eventually she said to us, "I want to work in housing." Now, what we realised she was saying was that she wanted to work in the city. And she was a city girl. She loved the big city, just like she liked a big, busy high school. She liked a big, busy city.
Well, I kept saying, I can't hear this. I put so much effort into the market that I can't hear Mena wanting a different job. And this young friend who got to know Mena, she said, "You've got to listen to Mena. What she wants is a job in the city, and I'm going to get it for you." And so she went and got the job, which was 2 days a week at the Office of the Public Advocate, and took Mena shopping for what she called was a kick-butt outfit and pearls, and off they went. That whole time was her golden years, and she loved going in the cab to town. No, she went by train into town. They picked up a coffee on the way, and she had her lanyard, and she would swing past the security, give them a wave, into the terrazzo floored huge building, up the lift. This was all heaven for Mena. She had a vision for herself, a sense of who she was, a sense of her own place, a sense of her value as a worker, and a sense of her value as a friend, and her place in her local community, that she had a very strong vision for herself beyond us.
This series is available on iTunes and wherever good podcasts are found. If you have enjoyed this crucial conversation, we'd appreciate your sharing this important series and helping it reach a broader audience. For more information, go to cru.org.au/crucialconversations.